Hello and a very warm welcome to the late-breaking F1 podcast presented by Harry Eade, Sam Sage and me, Ben Hocking. Today reviewing the United States Grand Prix won by Max Verstappen after a close fight with Lewis Hamilton, although Lewis Hamilton is not the driver who finished second due to a disqualification after the Grand Prix. Him and Charles Leclerc falling foul of technical regulations. So it was actually Lando Norris who technically finished in second place, and Carlos Sainz picks up another podium where he doesn't actually get to stand on the podium. He was third. Of course, a slightly different review in that we were there. We were at turn 12 watching the Grand Prix.
Yeehaw.
It was all right, wasn't it?
It was pretty tasty.
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 Pretty weird. Ben started the podcast. He's got no notes.
Yeah, this is very strange.
It's crazy. This feels like a real loose.
We're loosey-goosey, baby.
I don't have
Lucy.
time to write notes normally for the review episodes.
True, and also, sorry if you're hearing that it's quite echoey. We're in an Airbnb, and it is a very high-ceilinged building.
Yeah, it's just a very big space we're in right now.
Promise you, it's a one-off. We'll be back to normality later on in the... Well, actually, we won't be, because we're going to be reviewing the Mexican... Well, previewing the Mexican one here as well.
Mexico GP review.
We'll be back to normal.
Yes.
Sound normal.
Qualifying review. Promise. Anyway, that's enough chit-chat. What are we talking about, Ben?
Well, we're just going to be really smug for about an hour because finally we've actually recorded a podcast slightly later than what we normally do, and we've been rewarded because the news about Leclerc and Hamilton has happened after before we've recorded rather than after. But what else have we got coming up today? Thoughts on the sprint race, as we didn't get a chance to do the sprint or quali reviews, so we're going to give our thoughts on the sprint race in a little bit. Haas and Aston Martin both brought upgrades this weekend and they went really well, so our thoughts on both of those teams.
Oh
no indeed. Ferrari doing very well in qualifying, but not so much in terms of tyre wear. Our thoughts on that a little bit later on, but let's start with the fight out front. So Max Verstappen started the Grand Prix in 6th place. Lewis Hamilton also in a pretty good position, in 3rd on the grid. So they were fighting throughout the race. Verstappen was the sort of first of the front runners to go into the pit stops. It was a bit up in the air as to what the strategy was for the teams. It seemed that Verstappen at least was committed to a 2-stop as he went medium on his first 2 runs. With Lewis Hamilton, though, he went longer on the first stint on those mediums and then went on to hard tyres. So we're in the stands thinking, he's probably thinking of doing a 1-stop here.
Cheeky boy.
This is going to be really interesting to see how that pans out. And then Mercedes went, no, we're actually 2-stopping as well. And of course, as we know, he got fairly close to Max Verstappen, but not quite enough in order to take the win. So, Sam, the question is, were Mercedes right to bail out of that 1-stop strategy?
This was a really big talking point between all of us while we were sat there in the grandstand watching it happen, weren't we? I actually loved that they went risky, or it looked like they were going to be risky. You know, Max Verstappen in that car, despite him nursing a massive brake issue, and you could hear him on his team radio how frustrated he had become with the car. You know, GP's engineer kept talking to him in the braking zones, and the swear words coming out of that young man's mouth about not talking to him in the braking zones were extreme, which I'm all for. You could tell that he cares so much about winning, despite the championship already being wrapped up. He wanted that victory. I was a bit gutted to hear that Mercedes had pulled out of the potential 1-stop, because I think they were onto something. I think they didn't win anyway, but at least they were doing something initially that was very different, that was very, unexpected at the front, and it meant that Verstappen had to go from being the hunted to the hunter. He had to put out the results. He had to knock out the lap times. He didn't just have to sit there consistently ensuring that then he doesn't get overtaken. And it might not have worked out, but I don't think it was ever going to work out with how it panned out in the first place. When they brought Hamilton in for that second stop, it was too late in the Grand Prix to make up the difference. The Mercedes isn't that strong. And the fact that Verstappen was still managing to knock out those lap times despite having such severe brake issues shows that while it was a close end to the race, I think actually had the car been fully healthy, Verstappen would have been further up the road. So I do think that they should have stayed out with him. I think maybe split it, bring Russell in for the 2-stop, keep Hamilton out for the 1-stop. Worst comes to it, you end up on the podium anyway and you don't get the win. But for me, I think it's a bit of a shame. I actually commented on the grandstand while we were watching. I'm sick of how bad Mercedes are at strategy. They're really, really poor at it at the moment. And I think a lot of people started to doubt Hannah Schmitz from Red Bull with her strategy call on this 2-stop, because it looked like it immediately became the favourable stop to do 1. And
always have faith, mate.
Always have faith.
Have faith in
they
Hannah.
brought her up on the big screen around the track when she was quite...
she looked concerned,
she
didn't
did.
she?
Concerned talking over the microphone.
She was fine.
She was concerned probably about what she's having, I don't know, for dinner later on in town, because she smashed it again. Honestly, that woman is a prophet of strategy, and she nailed it at every point. And I do think that to beat something like that, with a car that good, with a driver that good, you have to go out on a limb, you have to take a risk, and Mercedes, I think, let themselves down a little bit. I think worst comes to it, they could finish third, not second maybe, had Norris kept on, but his tyres died off very quickly as well. So obviously not on the podium at all because they can't measure how thick a plank should be, but nonetheless, I think the wing was properly in contention had they stuck it out for the one stop. The risk was worth it, I think.
Read my lips, everyone. Step 1, don't doubt Hannah. Step 2, refer to step 1. That's how you do strategy.
She knows how to nail a strategy.
What were your thoughts, Harry? Did you agree? I know we were, as Sam mentioned, talking about this, and I don't know if you actually said this line, but it sounds very much like you. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Well, I've heard that one before.
Which, by the way, I had to write down in someone's signature book.
So that was the individual who came to the live show.
Crazy.
And made us each write our own catchphrase and then sign it. That might be the best thing I've ever signed in my life.
Anyway, what are you doing?
Correct.
Yeah, why? They just didn't commit to either way properly. Either commit to the one stop, which we thought they had. And I was sat next to you guys, and when Verstappen got past Norris, but then didn't really pull away from Hamilton. It was like 6 seconds max before he had his second stop. I was like, Hamilton's in a good spot here because when he comes back out, Verstappen's still got to make up
15 seconds.
Yeah. And it was when he came out, it was 15 seconds, and I was like, that's going to take a lot for him to gain. And 2 laps later, they bring Hamilton in anyway, so that's pointless. But I think the 2 options were quite marginal, but they didn't commit then to the 2 stop for Hamilton early enough because he then ran out of laps. I think if it had been a 58 lap race rather than a 56, he would have got him. But then in that case, Mercedes just bring him in a bit earlier. Was annoying. I don't know. I don't think the one stop would have worked anyway, but it would have been really interesting to see that the reversal of who was being the hunter and the hunted.
Yeah.
To see how that would have worked out, because I think Verstappen probably still would have got past, but I think there's more jeopardy involved then for Verstappen because he's got to be the one getting the moves done with dodgy brakes. So.
And also, Hamilton only made up. I know it's Hamilton's car is generally slower than that Red Bull, but again, it's wounded. But Hamilton made up 9 seconds in like the 21 laps or something that he had left. That tells me that it would have been a challenge for Verstappen to have made up the 15 seconds in maybe 24, 25 laps. You know, that would have to be just around a second a lap and then get the move done. It's it's Verstappen. He probably could do it, but it's no easy thing to do.
Agreed.
Yeah. I actually think that Norris hampered Lewis Hamilton's race here and his strategy in that I think he was somewhat of a distraction that wasn't actually a distraction almost. Right. In the early stages, it looked like Lando Norris was competitive enough that maybe the race win was on. Obviously, he led for a number of laps. And I don't think at that point anyone knew, McLaren or Mercedes, how much Norris was going to drop off the pace. And I feel like Lewis Hamilton in second, obviously at that point with Verstappen behind, maybe their attention was turned to how do we beat Norris rather than actually we've got Norris. Verstappen's the one we need to think about here.
You say that, and I think that's a really good point because Hamilton on the team radio was regularly saying, Bono, what's the gap to the car in front? What's the gap to the car? And Bono kept coming over. Norris is a given. We might be able to get Verstappen. He kept trying to reassure him. Norris is a given, which I think you're right. I think Hamilton was focused on grabbing second. And only then after that did he go, first is an option. We saw what the gap was, I think it was 2 seconds when they crossed the line, but it came down to about 1.4 at one point, which shows how 2 more laps maybe, like you said, it could have had it.
Because in hindsight, I think Mercedes probably just pit Lewis Hamilton the lap after Verstappen comes in. And you make Verstappen do the overtake on track.
Make him work.
Yeah, because at that point, he had a comfortable-ish advantage in that the undercut probably wasn't going to pay off for Verstappen.
Yeah.
So, if you pit just 1 lap after Verstappen, even if it's early, you pit 1 lap after Verstappen, you do that on the second stint as well. Suddenly, maybe Verstappen wins, like you say, maybe Verstappen still takes the victory, but at that point, he's got to make the overtake to get it done. Whereas I think, I'm not going to say Mercedes handed it to Verstappen, but certainly I don't think they made him work as much as they should have done. And in all honesty, I think the one stop probably wasn't going to work. On reflection, in the
Leclerc,
exactly. Leclerc is the benchmark, and I know Ferrari eats up their tyres far more than Mercedes do.
So they go for the one stop.
Yeah, they understand so well.
Good work, Ferrari.
You've done it again.
Yeah. So it might not be a direct comparison because of that, but certainly Leclerc was overtaken by his teammate and they were on the opposite. It was almost like Sainz was on the Verstappen strategy and Leclerc was on the Hamilton strategy. And obviously Sainz won that battle and Leclerc dropped behind Sergio Perez as well. So I don't know whether it would have worked, but to your point, Harry, you go one or the other.
Give it a go.
It just feels sluggish. It feels lazy. Like they reacted to the point where Verstappen had already got the undercut because they were so slow to pit him again that he already got the jump. And it happened a second time when they then thought, we'll bring Hamilton in right at the end of the race. And it's just make a cutthroat decision and work out what one you want to do and stick to it, because otherwise you end up in this middle ground that doesn't work either way. You will lose out because you're not committed.
Yeah, I tend to think if you're doing more laps on the medium tyre versus what you do on the hard tyre, which is what happened with Lewis Hamilton, something's probably not gone right. Yeah. They went very long on that first stint, and at the time we were like, okay, yeah, they might be able to make this work. If you can do, was it 21 laps on the medium? Yeah. Could you do 35 on the hards? And you're like,
I mean, in theory, yes, whether
feasible.
They're competitive. But yeah, you're right. It's.
I mean, Alonso did a lot of laps on the hard tyre, if I remember correctly.
Before his suspension failure, he was in the points and going to finish there from pit lane.
And of course, Leclerc did. I don't remember what lap Leclerc pitted on, but
it was hard to follow, folks.
We were a bit confused sometimes.
We were trying.
Yeah, and with Hamilton, they brought him in slightly earlier because they were like, Bono was like, "Can you do 5 more laps?" And Hamilton was like, "No,
I'm struggling, Bono."
And then just to prove his point, he decided to run wide.
Yeah,
See that, Bono?
Yeah, I'm struggling for real. So then he brought him in like 2 laps later for his first stop, which I know it's only a few laps.
3 laps can be the difference.
But it's like they're not giving themselves more of that chance to do the one stop better because Hamilton hates his tyres.
Just want to say though, I think, and we discussed this, Ben, I think that race was a bit of an underrated banger. I love the competition of the stops. I love the fact that multiple teams fighting through.
2 seconds at the end, between first and second.
Right? And the qualifying, and I'm not saying about the sprint itself, but because we basically get 2 qualifyings in a row, right? The sprint shootout is against another qualifying. Both of those were equally very exciting to watch as well. It was a good weekend for racing.
I mean, we'll get into our thoughts on the sprint race in a little bit, but certainly looking at the main race today, like it was, and it'll be one to watch back, obviously, from our perspective.
We've got a slightly biased point of view.
I don't know. I felt it was strategically one of the better races of the year. Even if like the outright on-track action wasn't, might not have been up to scratch with a few of the post-summer break races we've had.
Yeah.
Certainly from an overall race perspective, you always knew it was going to end with the strategies coming together last few laps.
And this is that a little bit of the flavour of what we've spoken about many times with the tyres, isn't it? Of, the softs being mega fast.
Multiple strategies,
right? Multiple stop strategies, variations, where with 5 or 6 laps to go, they all converge into one place and you go, right, now we're going to see who's really got the cut of the mustard. And we kind of saw it come together today. Yeah. It was fun.
I think we knew I felt like as soon as we got to like 10 laps in, Verstappen hadn't flown through the field.
Yeah.
Good point. And the like sort of management that was going, well, you kept saying it, Ben, because Norris was holding Hamilton off at like 3 seconds for basically forever.
Yeah.
And it was then you sort of thought, oh, this is all going to come together.
Yeah.
It's going to come together at the end. And it did. Obviously not with Norris, which is a bit of a shame, but with the other 2.
I mean, you give that, I think the ultimate would have been 1 more lap for that battle out front. Because I personally think, I don't think Lewis Hamilton would have got by Max Verstappen
close
with 1, but I think it would have been DRS territory getting close to, can I make a wild lunge?
Have a little lunge.
You know we're seeing those cars drive straight off the racetrack.
As mentioned, we were at 10-12, so again, probably a bit biased on this, but it would have been very...
We saw a few cars take a slightly wider line going off the track there, and I imagine both of them, a bit like Brazil, would have ventured onto the lone star that was painting onto the ground over there.
I already know the answer to my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Would you like to review bold predictions?
Nah.
It's been so much fun.
We got to go out, man. We got to get on with it.
I'm having a beer. It's a good time.
We can't.
Fortunately, it won't take very long to wrap up.
Oh, thank goodness. We got them all right, yeah?
We revealed it's actually pretty classic. We did a live show and we've put together possibly our worst bold predictions of the year.
Horrendous.
Well done, under the pressure
really
of the crowd.
up there. Sam, yours was obviously different from mine and Harry's that were fairly similar.
Yes.
You said that Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri would finish first and second, and I don't think you disagree with this. You might have got carried away with the live crowd on that.
I said it at the live
They
crowd.
cheered for you, and you were like, yes.
I'm like,
more cheers.
I'm the fan favourite. I will keep going. I was wrong. Yeah.
I mean, Lando Norris was in the final.
There was a glimmer of hope at one point, there was. And Piastri was sixth at one point, overtaking a lot of cars. I thought, he's coming, the McLaren's good, and then he didn't work.
A 2 DNF rather than a 1-2.
I should have said that.
Anyway, that's not the worst one. So let's
No.
carry on.
What were yours, boys?
Well, Haas were bringing upgrades this weekend.
Yeah.
And we'll get on to that
Good
in
to-
a
good
little
to
bit.
Preheated the oven.
Let Haas cook. Nothing.
You
Burn
guys.
down the kitchen,
Your
man.
predictions.
Goodness me. I said that Haas would have a double top 10 finish. Harry went even more bold than that and said top 8. Doesn't really matter. We could have said top 14. Would have still been wrong.
Still would have been right.
Even with all the disqualifications, I still think that's wrong. They were good in practice.
FP1, mate.
FP1 was great.
Would have been. I was feeling pretty confident.
How often do we actually take FP1 as gospel?
I know, but on a sprint weekend, you've got to go out there and nail it. I was oh my Lord, it's happening.
And then they did not get it.
I was a little nervous for Williams this weekend because I was like, Haas are going to bring these upgrades and they're going to put Williams is it 7th place in jeopardy? And
No.
Williams have come away with 3 points.
Guess who else got a point? I should have said Logie Sarge.
You should have said Logie Sarge. You didn't. But we were so horribly wrong.
Abakai out, folks.
Abakai out, because I know everyone has multiple abacus around the world. And you don't need to move it whatsoever. Let's take our first short break. On the other side, we'll be discussing, Ferrari.
Oh, dear.
Okay, welcome back. Let's talk about Ferrari.
Grazie, ragazzi.
Oh dear.
No grazie, no ragazzi.
Hey,
3rd place, 6th place.
we grazie hard if it's a Friday.
Hey, I bought a Ferrari cap on
Charles
Friday,
Leclerc
and it
cap.
worked great.
Hold on, camera watchers.
Oh, we're actually going to get this
It's a live
thing.
reveal of the cap.
Yeah. I needed a cap on Friday. That's what I got. I was manifesting a Leclerc pole position.
Don't put it in front of mine, at least next to.
Yeah, got next to it. Yeah,
Lovely.
and it worked. He got pole position on Friday. He was looking pretty good, and certainly, I think all three of us said this on Saturday in the sprint race that we'll get onto in a bit. There were a few worrying signs about Ferrari and their race pace and overall tyre wear. Sorry, Kirsty's just trying to open something about making a noise.
Kirsty,
She wants a Monster.
Yeah.
your beer's over there.
She wants a
by the way.
Monster.
Yeah, you want
She's got a can of Monster. Everyone.
beer and Monster. That's what Kirsty's all about.
Honestly, do we live in Enfield on a council estate?
Pretty much. Anyway, yeah, Ferrari. So their race pace and their tyre wear
Do you want to open that any louder,
wasn't
Kirsty?
good.
Jesus. No, it was terrible.
So, no.
Can you tell whether we've not really watched the race properly?
I mean,
Oh no!
We've been so hot and
No,
sweaty.
can we? Yeah, I'm sorry,
Ferrari,
Ben.
they split their strategies, and neither of them worked brilliantly.
Yeah, no, it wasn't ideal. Was it?
Leclerc's was terrible. I'd like to say after the sprint race yesterday, whatever, but where Leclerc was really slow. He lost. What was it like?
He was
9 seconds.
9
in 19
seconds
laps.
behind.
Verstappen was eating into him.
Yeah.
like a chocolate bar.
It was clear that their tyre wear was not good, and it meant that we were less confident about his pole position. So Ferrari were like let's put one on one stop instead.
Honestly, you know that your car chews through tyres. Not as bad as the Haas, but it's not good and it overheats them a lot. And they were running this skinny rear wing type setup to make sure they couldn't be overtaking a straight line. Why would you go one stop and then burn through your only pair of tyres that you got on?
Is this a setup issue, or is this like a car characteristic issue in that?
But it worked in Singapore.
I think it's a car characteristic issue.
And that's famously quite hard, and I don't know. I think it's the car.
I wonder if the compounds that get used, certain ones suit them much better than others. And I wonder if this track carry the ones that don't.
Yeah, I don't understand. I feel like it's a similar thing with Haas, isn't it? They just I mean, Haas are all consistently bad at their tyres, but
Ferrari do a few things okay.
Okay. I don't know. I don't think it's a setup thing, but it's something around that car that maybe they are getting into the weekends and they set it up and sometimes it works, and then set it up and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, they're terrible.
They are bad. Yeah, they are really bad. So why would you opt to go for a one stop when you know that your biggest weakness is tyre wear?
Don't know.
They seem to be all right in a straight line. They again referring to the sprint race a bit, but certainly Carlos Sainz proved on the. Oh, we're going to get onto this. The only runner on the soft tyre. He was difficult to overtake, at least later on in that Grand Prix, wasn't he? So
he was the GOAT for lap 1 to 5.
I think that Carlos Sainz actually... Oh, God, I'm sorry, folks. I've been singing and talking all weekend. I think he just defended brilliantly.
I just don't know what they could have done. But from first place, I know Charles Leclerc technically was disqualified, but for him to essentially reverse positions with what Verstappen's done I think I'm right here, Verstappen started 6th, finished 1st, Leclerc started 1st, finished 6th, that ain't great.
Converted it into a 1-6.
I love that.
Yeah.
How have you made a car that is so brilliant over a one-lap pace, but then is dire at the actual thing that provides you with points?
Because I think with Charles Leclerc, like the pace was legitimate in that I know Verstappen had a lap time deleted in qualifying that would have seen him onto pole, but that would have only been by
Less than
half
a
a
tenth.
tenth, was it? 5.5 possibly?
Yep.
So it's not like you can turn around and the narrative is, well, Verstappen gets that lap time in and it's fine, and Red Bull have major quali pace and race pace. Ferrari were legitimately there over one lap. They were legitimately there, but...
Them and others.
Yeah. In the race, though, they were absolutely nowhere. And I am scratching my head as to why.
It makes no sense.
I wonder if Ferrari are real victims with the sprint setup, the one practice thing. I wonder if they need a lot of reassurance time to really work it out.
But there's a fast car there, though.
Yeah, fundamentally there is, of course. They're in third in the championship for a reason.
But like it's an actually fast car because it can get pole position, but then it can also not do a race.
Yeah, it's very strange. But I mean...
You think they suffered from lack of practice time compared to others?
Well, you look at Qatar, right, as well. Again, they regularly fell backwards. Russell was able to make the most of both sessions. Hamilton was quick, and then he obviously didn't take part in the race properly. McLarens were able to maximise what they were doing, as was Max Verstappen across the whole sprint weekend. So I just think that, historically, Ferrari need a lot of prep time. I think they need to get their heads around things.
Interesting theory. Good thing we've got no more sprint race. Brazil. We don't have one next time out, at least.
Also, pet peeve. Listen with me.
Go on.
One of the graphics that they ran whilst we were on track on the big screens, they were showing all the locations of the sprint races.
Yeah.
And they put USA before Qatar, and it just irritated me. How have you got the calendar wrong? Your own calendar.
USA happened after Qatar.
It comes after Qatar on the calendar. Why you get it wrong?
Good.
Idiots.
Another, I'd say team, Piastri didn't really have the chance to show what he was capable of in the Grand Prix itself. But Lando Norris obviously led for a good chunk of the Grand Prix early on, but faded quite a lot late on in that he finished third on the racetrack. He'll obviously claim a P2 in terms of the actual classification, but we're talking earlier about Lewis Hamilton's strategy. It felt like it didn't really matter what Lewis Hamilton's strategy was, in that he still would have beaten Lando Norris probably. Were you surprised to see them fade so much?
Yes, I really thought Norris was going to be a proper threat today, and he was for a bit.
Yeah.
And then and then he wasn't. I think he looked like a threat at the start, as we said, and as you pointed out, he was really managing. And even when Verstappen was behind him, he was maintaining that gap. But just towards the end of that first stint, it started to teeter off for him, and I was like, oh.
You saw the gap to Hamilton come right down, right? It dropped for about 3
Well,
seconds.
first of all, it was Verstappen. It was Verstappen who was closing it, but
Norris was leading, and Hamilton had got back into second place, and the gap was coming down and down and down.
Whoever was,
yeah.
It from there on in, I was like, oh, they're on the back foot a bit here now. They don't quite have the pace.
It sounds weird, but it's almost like I think the Grand Prix itself was 56 laps. 56. Like if it was, let's say, I don't know, 48 laps, and it was like 16 on the tyres.
They'd have won it.
They'd have been fine.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. But they would have been all right.
Yeah, it was like the end of each stint.
You were right. Yeah. The end of the stint seemed to be off.
Which is a weird one, because I don't know, it looked like they had decent pace in the sprint, and that was 19 laps.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought they were... I mean, Norris gave it a good go, didn't he? But I guess maybe the writing was on the wall yesterday with Piastri, who is less experienced, and his pace in the sprint was
bad.
Oh, it was bad.
It was really bad.
And I think that was a tyre. And now looking back, that was probably a tyre thing for them. So interesting one. Yeah, I'm not saying he's lucky to get P2 because he was there in it all race, but you're right. He was the third quickest car today.
I also think they completely mucked up their hard running time. I thought they brought him in too early in comparison to how strong he was on the hard tyre. And then towards the end of his medium stint, he really fell off because the wear fell off so quickly.
So you started on medium, so then the second stint on the hard tyres, you think you should have run longer on that?
Yeah, because I managed to get the commentary in my ear, which the boys, obviously, you couldn't really hear it very well, but the commentary team, F1 TV, that were running, they were really confused when we saw Norris come into the pits, how quickly he appeared back in the pits again. Obviously, they had decided to change their strategy to prevent the undercut from Verstappen, haven't they? That's what they tried and done. They were trying to fight Verstappen's two-stop. They basically made the Mercedes choice before Mercedes had made it. And they ran their hard tyres in such a short window, which I think actually McLaren was very good on, that if they had tried to extend and then given more tyre life to their medium compounds at the end, it might have been a bit of a better... Maybe not against Verstappen, who I think had the legs on him, but they might have put up a better fight against Hamilton. But by the end of that race, he was, 10 seconds back from Hamilton?
Yeah. To Harry's part, I mean, it kind of... It happened without realising, didn't it? Like the gap in that 1 second he was being overtaken and it's fairly similar-ish pace. And then all of a sudden,
He even stuck with Verstappen for a bit after he got overtaken.
Yeah.
And I was
absolutely.
like, well, maybe this is a battle we're going to have, and then nah.
Yeah, turn 12, at one point, it was like, he's right behind. And then all of a
Towing
sudden...
him along, right?
You kind of see Verstappen and Hamilton come past, and then you look to the left, you're like, he's still not here. There he is.
Verstappen mugged him off a little bit with his overtake.
It's a great overtake.
Yeah, saucy.
Yeah, I know this is a really obvious statement. You really appreciate a proper dive bomb so much more in person.
Yeah.
They are phenomenally good.
But dive bombs into turn 12, or indeed anywhere, you need to not force the other driver.
Yeah, that came up a lot, and they didn't mention that once.
Not just the Verstappen comment, by the way.
A few times, up and down the grid. I imagine that some of them weren't showing on the telly, just because you know how they film the back of the grid.
Was it the hard but fair?
Apparently that's what came on the radio. One of the commentators said the FIA have kind of apparently said to someone that it was a harsh but fair move. He wasn't on the track when the move was being finished, but sure.
Greatest dive bomb of the weekend, which is obviously a new segment we're doing now.
Yep.
Greatest dive bomb of the weekend.
Beautiful. Lance Stroll on Daniel Ricciardo in the sprint.
Oh my God, Lancey boy.
filth.
He is sent it, and it was phenomenal.
It was from miles back.
Literally, I think he sent it from turn 11.
Lance Stroll now has like 500 fans. They are all sat at turn 12.
Yeah, we love him. I think he can start his own
one
Royal
else.
Mail company, because honestly, he sent it enough on that one that he, delivery first class.
I sent it and made a stick and didn't run him off the road.
No issues, fair move.
He
Beautiful.
bought 10 stamps. He was being sure.
Also, fair play to... I mean, Ricciardo left the door open, but fair play to him, because from that distance, it wouldn't be hard to turn into the corner thinking that you're going to make the corner. But Lance planting it is fantastic.
Anyway, so Ferrari and McLaren, do you think there's any, I don't know if concern's the right word, but do you think they've still got a lot to do to compete with I say the likes of Verstappen, but I really mean only Verstappen. Do you think that this race almost proved that they're getting there, but also got a lot still to do?
They are getting closer. The last couple of races have not been easy for Verstappen.
Yeah, true.
He's still won, obviously, but it does. And I'm not saying this, it's Red Bull or wash now, but it's getting more difficult for Verstappen than it has been. I think that's reflected also. I know Perez is a separate issue, but reflected because I think Perez actually had a horrendous race today, but it's just like the natural gap back between Verstappen and Perez means that Perez is now falling into this sort of middle of the top 10 battle more often.
Which is every team apparently these days.
Which is whoever decides to turn up each weekend. But because of that, I think that proves that these teams are now getting a bit closer. McLaren especially, but Mercedes with some upgrades this weekend, which I think has been publicly said it's there for next year.
Yeah.
As in they're testing bits for next year.
Well,
at least
good.
For Hamilton, worked pretty well until they were illegal.
He was happy as well.
It was a new floor.
It was.
The irony.
Ironic. It's a millimetre thing. I was actually going to say that it felt like the first weekend in a long time that Mercedes were kind of the second fastest team in race pace. But I mean, actually, it was more Hamilton that was the second fastest in race pace. Russell was really off of it this weekend.
Hamilton overtook Norris, and then Russell was like, did a fastest lap and was like, I'm still here.
Hello.
Yeah, that was the odd bit about Russell. It was like, because he wasn't on the pace, and then he did a fastest lap. I'm like,
doesn't matter when Yuki Tsunoda gets it.
Oh man, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. We enjoyed that.
We will get to that indeed. We'll take our second short break. We'll be right back after this. Okay, let's move on to Haas and Aston Martin. Two fairly random teams, you might be thinking, but they did have something in common this weekend. They both sucked. No, they had one thing in common this weekend, which is they bought upgrades, which, I don't know, it seemed like a bit of a surprise, but COTA did seem like a place where quite a few teams decided to bring some upgrades, but I think Haas and Aston Martin were at the upper end of the amount that they were bringing. They didn't really work. We've already discussed how badly the Haas bold prediction went for myself and Harry Eid, but we haven't discussed Aston Martin yet. Both cars started in the pit lane. Fernando Alonso deciding to go back to the old spec car, which was used at Qatar. Lance Stroll staying with the new one. Fernando Alonso retired in the end, but it seemed to work okay during the Grand Prix. But obviously, they were at such a disadvantage on where they were starting qualifying pace-wise, it didn't really matter all that much. And now McLaren are officially ahead of Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship. So, Sam, what did you think of both of those teams' weekends?
Whoa, we're starting in the pit lane. Whoa.
Logan Sargent was loving it.
All right,
More
great
Wenger
suck.
boys. More Wenger boys.
Wenger breaking. Our new club mix.
I blame.
Yeah, I know
one over there.
that stupid person over there who loves singing it on the bus.
Chomping on a
Stuck in
pizza right now.
bloody hell. Anyway, off camera.
Jumping away.
Anyway, right, Haas and Aston Martin. Big disagree with you, Ben, on whether Aston Martin's upgrades actually worked. I think they got the setup wrong going into...
Upgrades worked, setup was wrong.
I agree. Yeah,
that's what Mr. Crack said.
Yeah, and I think that is entirely right. Mike Crack nailed it because I think it's not funny. Children, I see you all giggling.
Your Crack nailed it.
Your Crack nailed it. I think that you look at where Lance Stroll was, and I think we're all in a fair understanding, right, that Fernando Alonso generally is the better of the two drivers at Aston Martin.
Hard disagree.
Okay, good. And Lance Stroll was not immediately right behind him, but I feel like it's the closest that Lance Stroll has been for, at least since the summer break, if not before that. I think this has been... I know he's had better overall results, but I think this has been Lance Stroll's best Grand Prix of the season.
I think Bahrain was better.
Okay, I think it's a fair... But
it's
definitely
right? fair.
And I think the new setup was working. And while Alonso, you're right, was just ahead, I think if Alonso had the same setup that Lance had with the new car, I think he might have been further than that. As both Astons did pit lane to points, it felt comfortable. They were in there well before the end of the race. And of course, Alonso had the suspension failure, which is a shame. But Lance now picks up 2 more places with the DSQs that have taken place. So he's gone from, 9th to 7th?
I believe so.
So that's 6 points?
And also Gasly's 6th.
Whoa, we love teammate wars.
That's not cool.
I'm very happy.
Come on.
I've had a lovely time. Anyway, back to Aston Martin. So I think these are the first upgrades for a while for Aston Martin that genuinely could take some hold, that could work, that felt positive. And you know what? Lance has had a bad couple of weeks, and he mucked up, he's hurt someone, he's been a bit of a poo. So
You big
Practice, barely had any practice time.
barely any practice time, and then he nails a pit lane to points, and he did it brilliantly.
He tried to do it from the grid still, but
He just got away with that one. And then, as we've already mentioned, he bloody planted it on Daniel Ricciardo. He's one of the harder people to plant one on. So I think Aston Martin are a bit of a success story here that have gone under the radar a little bit. Now, Haas, on the other hand, they're going to prison for being frauds.
straight to jail.
You are imposters, and you don't deserve to be on the grid. Oh, we brought the most upgrades we've ever brought to a Grand Prix. Why didn't they work then? Oh, who is testing these? Are we testing them?
They're copying Red Bull, but all they did was they just looked at a Red Bull and were like, that works.
They saw one of the toy cars on Amazon.
The 2014 Red Bull.
Yeah, apparently, and they went, "Oh, this toy car on Amazon's a bit expensive. Where else can we get ours from? Oh, we'll get it from Wish." So we bought the Red Bull from Wish, and it's turned up and it's rubbish. So, no, terrible. And I found it really funny the whole weekend that you two have had so much optimism in Haas, who have literally not done anything good since Australia 2019.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, you've got a fair point there. It was bad, wasn't it? I don't know. From Haas's perspective, they should have done better. It was. Yeah,
It's made it worse. At least it was a qualifying car. Now it does nothing.
Yeah, I think the worst thing from Haas's perspective is, and they probably have this most races, to be fair, in person as well, but they were just never not on the back foot. Like, they were never the car that was looking to overtake another car. Like, they were always under pressure. Like, even when it came to, no disrespect, I mean, Logan Sargent was pressurizing Haas drivers, which, if that's happening, something's probably gone quite wrong with your car. So I don't they even use, I think they ended up using this session as a test session, in all honesty. But I hope they learned something, because I didn't.
Oh, I don't think anyone learned anything from that.
We learned they're rubbish.
Well,
Still.
Magnussen had an all right start. Didn't matter.
still at the back.
I don't get how you could be this clever, have this much money, this much funding, this much experience, and are still getting it categorically so wrong.
Do you remember when they didn't develop their 2021 car
For a whole freaking year.
Yeah, and it worked for a race.
Literally a race. And then they went, we're not bringing any more upgrades for this season now.
Do you know that's exactly the same as BMW 2008?
Worked.
Robert Kubica should have been world champ that year.
Yep. Oh my God, yes.
Well,
and then
Nick Heidfeld.
Nick Heidfeld.
Man,
one of them should have been. And then they turned up in 09 with a absolute pile of garbage, and then left F1. So
bye.
Can you come back, please, BMW? I quite like it.
I'm with you. I think the Aston Martin ones upgrades, they obviously did. They just went the wrong way. Do you know what?
Is it a bit jury's out at this point? You want
I'd
to see
say
what
jury's out.
Mexico
I think
brings.
Alonso threw a paddy. I think he threw a hissy fit and got it wrong. I know it rarely happens, but I think he got it wrong. If Lance Stroll was able to do that...
I don't even know if that was Alonso's choice. I feel like they genuinely were a little bit lost and were like, well, let's use this as a test session.
Which makes sense to have a back-to-back. And you don't...
Well, the only thing is... so Alonso with the older car was outperforming Stroll with the new car. Now, as you said, on the balance of... You would accept Alonso is better than the newer car. You'd say the newer car probably is going to be a better car.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Great thing.
Long term, good thing. This race, not good thing.
And actually, I would have been, as you pointed out, Ben, I would have been really intrigued if they'd actually started, even at the back end of the top 10, as to where they would have then been. Because I think Alonso, before his suspension failure, was chasing down Gasly. Stroll, right at the end, was chasing down Gasly. They could have been... I'm not saying
they could have been 7th, 8th, and then after the disqualifications, they could have been 5th and 6th.
Exactly. So, jury's out, but I'd say they obviously just went the wrong way at the start of the weekend, and that's the, I guess, the risk of introducing new stuff at a sprint weekend because you don't have time to change
exactly
it.
That. We were lucky enough, again, thanks partially to your connections, Harry, to have a little tour around the Aston Martin paddock.
Yeah, we went in their garage.
And their garage, and they were very lovely, very kind. And we got talking to them, and they did say that they're in a bit of a catch-22 situation where they wanted to bring upgrades at Qatar, but it's a sprint weekend because you only get one session. It's a nightmare. So you bring them at Kota, it's another sprint weekend. But if you don't bring them, and Aston Martin jump you, then they've already jumped you. And if they don't work, then you spent a lot of money. It's a nightmare. It could be a lose-lose situation, or they get away with it. They get a little bit lucky, and hang on a minute, they're onto something, but it's a bit pot luck. So that's why they chose to run the two different cars back to back to really see are they onto something for the final 4 or 5 races of the season.
Just a side note on that one, we went into the garage and both the cars were being sort of basically rebuilt. Lance Stroll's car was on the jacks. It had no rear end. The engine was there but not attached, and it was about 3 hours before the race. Now, I'm not saying this is an issue, but that's just ridiculous.
20 past 11, it was in about 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
1:30, it was on the grid.
And also, they're very chill about that. They're all just like...
Bopping along.
Had music on.
Yeah, they were they were kind of like not interacting fully with us, but they were aware that we were there, and they were kind of like, yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. Anyway, so jury's out on that, but yeah, Haas, blimey. I just... That's a real worry because...
Do you remember the conversation about why they deserve to be on the grid and not Andretti?
Well, anyway, we're not getting to that now. But even... Well, maybe it could be a setup thing. Let's presume it's not.
You say that, but they're starting in the pit lane for that reason.
Yeah, and they were still bad.
Both are bad.
If this is their biggest upgrade and they're trying to go down the Red Bull route, that's not looking good.
No.
I mean, that's just going to be 5 or 4, how many ever races we've got left. That's going to be that many test sessions, isn't it?
Yeah. We've heard what Mercedes are doing. James Allison has said, I don't care about the car anymore. Everything that is happening is now only for 2024. Haas should be doing the same thing. You're struggling this much. How do you get ahead? It's 5 races isn't going to change their season. It won't make a big difference. Get ahead for next season. Start nailing that early.
Can you imagine if Haas had a car this year that actually could do a race? Hulkenberg would have so many points.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was scraping top 10 in the championship.
Hulkenberg has, and I don't have the stats to back this up, Hulkenberg has qualified, roughly speaking, as well as an Alpine has this year.
Yeah.
Right? And both Alpine drivers have scored regular-ish points.
This sounds even more obscene. Does he have as many Q3 appearances as Perez?
Probably not quite.
But it's not far off.
I mean, it's not going to be
6 or 7. Perez has 9.
Don't know.
He's done a good job.
Yeah.
Haas upgrades-wise or downgrades, I don't have too much more to say on it other than they didn't work. Aston Martin, I do agree with you. I want to see how it works in Mexico and following races. I think that the point here is that they have to work in qualifying. Because they seem to work in the Grand Prix itself. But if they don't work in qualifying as well, it's kind of for nothing. Because even if, Lance Stroll made a great recovery today, I completely agree with you on that. But it's still not worth a lot when your nearest rival in the championship is securing a P2 on the podium. So that they have to answer these qualifying issues as well. And yes, they both started from the pit lane, but that's only because they wouldn't have started much worse than that if they were on the grid itself.
Were they 16th and 18th?
Double Q1.
19th.
Yeah, there you go. So even worse. I mean, the difference again between Haas and Aston, I trust Aston. They nailed it at the start of this season. They know how to develop an upgrade, and it works. It fell apart because they didn't keep developing, but they know what worked, and they were right about it. They got one wrong so far, then that was on over the summer break. I think this will be okay.
I trust them more than Haas, but that's a low benchmark.
I
I don't know.
trust a lot of things more than Haas.
Okay. Let's move on.
Oh my God, what's happened?
Good Lord.
We're sorry, listeners. You've received a message.
What? Nothing is... I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
This message is to join the Discord. The link's in the description.
Yeah, actually moving on from that. Harry, you experienced the sprint race in person. How was it?
Friggin' awful.
Oh.
It was rubbish. No, it was...
Racing can't be bad when you're in person.
No.
Just to clarify.
That is such a fair point. It's really hard for it to be bad in person.
I'd like to say, I said this to you today, there was so much action where we were at Turn 12 that you just was not on the TV because I told, I texted my dad about this, I think, about a move, maybe it was the Stroll move. And they're like, oh, I've not seen that.
Yeah.
And there was another battle at the end, towards the end, with Tsunoda and Magnussen, which started at turn 12 and ended at turn 1. They were side by side for the whole thing. None of that was shown.
No. And that was a brilliant battle.
So I think you missed some of that from the sprint race. But, yeah, you pointed this out, Ben. We've had some pretty good sprint races this year due to other factors.
Mitigating
weather,
circumstances.
things like that. And this has just brought it back down to earth that actually these suck.
Whether we're qualifying, laps being found to be set to track limits, this was the first one that was entirely normal.
And Verstappen made this point after the race. Again, he's won another thing and he's still berating it.
You can't say he's just being like, he's being uppity because, I haven't won this. No, he's winning and still complaining. Like,
He's the first person that deserves to complain.
But and he's right. And his point was, if you were a fan, you would be disappointed because you've seen a snapshot basically of what tomorrow will bring, i.e. Sunday will bring. And it's right. We then knew Verstappen was going to be good.
He was.
We knew Ferrari were going to be bad.
They were.
We knew Haas were going to be bad.
They were.
They absolutely were.
Snapshot of McLaren's tyre issues from Piastri.
Yep.
Very true.
Like, we know how some of the race is going to play out because of this. It's like having a little sample size of the race, which for me takes the...
So you go to a supermarket
away.
and they're doing those like little
tasters.
little tasters of like some new bread or something. You go, I'll have that. You go, don't like that. While I ate the whole loaf.
Then you taste the whole loaf. It's like,
it tastes
same, innit?
exactly the same, but bigger.
Yeah,
Same but
precisely.
bigger. Same but bigger. That's what main races are.
For God's sake, this without the strategy element, which was the most exciting part of the main race.
Yeah,
I imagine as well, we actually probably had, as you already mentioned in your point fairly, a bit of a shining light version of the sprint race because we were watching it in person. Version.
Because we watched the highlights on the way back in the Uber last
There
year.
were 4 highlights on the Uber trip. 4. Lap 1, 2,
4,
5,
Jeremy.
11. The race ended.
Yeah, it was rubbish.
Yeah.
Conclusion, no.
The video was only 6 minutes.
Do you also conclude no, Sam?
Yeah, this was by far the worst one we've seen, and it shows that I think Alex Jakes, who we are big fans of, was really trying to big it up on the commentary over the race today on F1 TV. He was really saying, you never know what Formula One throws up. People were moaning that this was going to be exactly the same copy and paste as it was. And I think, okay, the overall end result wasn't exactly the same, but Harry, you've already correctly diagnosed, I feel, the key strengths and weaknesses that were going to take place. If you were to bet on this finishing grid, I don't think you'd have been too far wrong. So I don't want that. I don't want predictability. I don't want repeats. I don't want a copy and paste. It's boring. And as much as I love that people around the track get to see more action, and you can't say we didn't enjoy seeing more cars on the track. That was fun, and I respect that opinion, and that's fine. Watching it from the telly, and for most people who won't get to go to Grand Prix regularly, it takes up your time for not a lot of reward. And we're busy people, and people have things to do on their weekends, and seeing another hour-long thing, not worth it.
Qualifying was good again this weekend.
Both times.
Unfortunately,
good format, that.
It was on the Friday where there's not as many people there watching. And we know for a fact, because we were there on Friday, and then versus today and Saturday, there are a lot more people there today
We
and
had a
Saturday.
lot of space on Friday.
I mean, we're not going to get into this today, but the COTA race organizer or maybe
PR team, I think.
I can't remember exactly, but it's essentially saying that sprint races haven't brought more tickets in.
Yeah. I mean, it was close because obviously Leclerc picked up pole for the main sprint and then Hamilton, the main race, sorry, and Hamilton was close on both sections. And in the sprint, he was 0.069 behind Max Verstappen, who, remember, Hamilton was third. So there's another car in that gap as well. Yeah. It just shows how good... Don't mess with qualifying.
I think to your point, Harry, the sprint race yesterday was standard. In that, there were no other circumstances going on, so you could just get a pure sprint race. And today's actual race was exactly the same.
Green flag running.
It was a pure race. There were no safety cars, no VSCs, there were no yellow flags. It was just a pure race. Today's was entertaining, yesterday's wasn't. And to go back to your point, Harry, what you said 2 minutes into this review, multiple strategies. They're fun. But you don't get multiple strategies in sprint races because they're over and there's no tyre switches. Like, of course you're going to get this sort of result. A fair play to Carlos Sainz, who I can only assume for entertainment only.
Did it for
Did
banter.
it literally for the banter?
He did it for the content, and for that, I am a Carlos Sainz fan. But he was the only driver who opted to go for something that wasn't the medium tyre, because the medium tyre was the obvious choice.
Yeah.
And on reflection, Carlos Sainz had to do quite a bit of defending in order to keep one position lower than what he qualified in.
Yeah.
So, short story, it didn't work.
At least he tried it. It was so different.
He tried something different. So yeah, I mean, the sprint race itself, as mentioned, you can't have a bad time when you're watching racing live. But I was curious to see after, because I was like, I'm not sure that would have translated very well onto television. Scroll through Twitter. Yeah, it didn't. But yeah, this
narrator,
was
it did not.
I would be very curious to hear what you lot who weren't at the track thought of the main Grand Prix, because the three of us enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed the strategy elements. We've already said this. Won't repeat it. But there might be some people who think it's not all out action. It's not all out fighting. It's not for you. But I would be curious to know.
I was at our live show on Thursday. It was, I don't know, it said 40, 60% in favour.
I think that's pretty fair.
Not in favour of sprint races, but 40 who did.
It was a relatively even split. One lovely chap who was quite indifferent.
That was so funny.
It's a great.
I'm indifferent. Yeah, but I just don't know what the sprint race itself was. Just so strip everything away, and this is what it is. And what it is quite dull.
Do you know what it is? Crap.
Oh, that's a great point to end on.
As you say, today, lap 10, you knew that the end of this race was going to be a lot of fun. You just take that into the sprint race and get rid of the fun bit. Like, that's what it is. Like, I'm not saying the first 20 laps of today's race was thrilling. Like, it was good, but it wasn't.
That's number 3 count for Ben hitting his watch on the table.
Yeah, I know. It's good fun.
Oh, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Let me do it a bit closer to the mic.
Oh, yeah, keep doing it. The listeners are loving that.
They'll love that. I'll take this.
I was going to take it off. If we've got literally about 10 minutes left of this show, I'm so sorry.
As I take my watch off, we're going to have a short break.
I'm going to restart the camera.
Oh, hang on. No. We need to do driver of the day first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a real organised mess. Who's your driver of the day, Harry?
I'll go for... Who was really good? Oh, I mean, Verstappen was really good.
He was.
He's always really good, though.
He was.
You forget he worked his way from 6th.
Yeah.
Really easily.
It's a valid point. All right, I'll go Verstappen then.
It's a very fair shout. I don't think anyone's going to blame you for that.
Yeah, he did very well. I shout out to Logan Sargent because I know he was slightly gifted the points at the end, but he
It was his best race of the season.
I think that's a very fair shout for that.
Best race.
Yeah,
He was
'cause
right
he was
behind
only-
Albon. 6-7 seconds, I think.
Well, yeah, it was 7 seconds, and then Albon got a penalty, so it was 2.
And you've got to remember that Sargent's like at the back of the grid. Albon was a couple of places already in front of him at the start. To be that close, smashed it.
Yeah, and shout out to the Aston drivers, both of them, because I thought they did quite well, but I'll go Verstappen.
Sam.
Speaking of the Aston drivers, Lance Stroll.
Oh, driver of the day.
I don't think I've ever given it to Lance Stroll before.
I'll have to check the record books on that.
Ben loves a good record book.
But I think you're probably right.
Honestly, pit lane to points after that disaster of what felt like a car. He had no practice timing it as well. The rebuild took place. Alonso did not have any confidence in it, but Lance got what probably initially felt like the wrong end of the stick. And he worked on that strategy with the team. He made some great overtakes. He was bold with it, sensible at the same time. And he's been rewarded with 9th place, which I think was great from the pit lane for any car that basically isn't Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes or McLaren. So fantastic turnaround. And he's got even more points because of the disqualifications, which I actually think he deserves. He's had a rubbish time, brought on by himself, but that doesn't mean he doesn't get the chance to redeem it and come out stronger. So he deserves the credit.
Agreed on the shout out to Logan Sargent. Certainly, after what Qatar brought, that is a tremendous turnaround.
Remarkable.
So well done. But I'm not going to give it to him. I also want to give a half shout out to Pierre Gasly because I don't think he could have done any more.
Pete Gasly did nothing wrong all weekend.
Yeah, he did nothing wrong. The only reason I half shout it out is that Esteban Ocon did out-qualify him and might have beaten him if he actually...
Gasly out-qualified him for the main qualifying. Did he? Was 6th and 7th.
Side by side?
Yeah, they were side by side. But
Was Ocon ahead early on? Sorry.
Yes,
Ocon
did, I got a better start.
Yeah. So Ocon was ahead early on. So I would have been interested to see if he was able to maintain that. But so that's why I want to half shout him out. Verstappen was very good because F1. I also want to... I'm going to give him the driver of the day. I'm going to go with it. Yuki Tsunoda.
Takes place,
what
right?
A G.
Which is actually now 8th place.
With the fastest lap.
With the fastest lap.
G.
And he smashed Daniel Ricciardo to pieces.
Fair play.
To be fair, Ricciardo did have a broken car.
Yeah, you're right. And for broken car, first race back as well is a tough Grand Prix to get involved with, but that doesn't stop Yuki delivering.
I thought he did a good job.
He
did do a good job.
And he didn't do that once against Lawson properly. He stepped up.
Worst driver of the day.
Kevin Magnussen.
Oh,
You said that with deliverance.
I mean,
But the
most
Haas,
convinced I've ever seen you.
the Haas was bad. But,
It was.
But K-Man made it look even worse.
came out making look bad.
At least Hulk...
Oh my
sorry.
God.
Sorry, everyone.
He's assaulted the table. Ben's hitting the table with his watch. Harry's kicking it.
At least Hulkenberg finished ahead of the Alfa Romeos.
They were
It's a
terrible.
small win, but we take small wins here on
But
the
he was further up the road than the K-Mag was. And K-Mag was also bad in the sprint yesterday.
Yeah.
K-Mag, sorry, mate. You were bad.
Oof.
Yeah, might be K-Mag, actually.
You going K-Mag as
Yeah,
well?
the thing is, I don't think anyone else was disastrously bad.
George Russell was quite slow.
Hey, spoiler alert.
That was going to be my other point, but I think he's done all right being not having an illegal car, which he probably does have an illegal car, actually, just they haven't checked it because it's being randomly chosen.
Slight deviation here.
Would you not check both the team cars?
So, am I getting this right? They check 4 cars at random.
I'm shook at this because I was convinced
Yeah,
they checked every
car.
They check 4 cars at random, and even if like multiple cars are in violation of the same thing, they don't go and then check the other 16.
They just say you got away with it.
You'd at least check the teammate of that car.
You would think so.
10 people in a room are guilty of thieving. Well, maybe check the other 40 that are standing there to see if they've done something. No, don't worry about them. They've not done anything wrong by assumption. The team car, surely, Sunk should have been checked. Russell should have been checked.
You would think so.
So you're going K-Mag?
No, I've just reminded Russell.
Okay.
That boy, the guy could have got a podium. He should have got a podium. Lewis Hamilton was. I don't know why Norris got the public vote. I know that everyone loves him, but I don't know why he got the public vote. Really, he was just good.
He was good.
He was just, and that's fine. I just don't think he was driver of the day. He was just good. And I think that Hamilton did a brilliant job, but I think Russell really dropped the ball this weekend.
I'm going George Russell, and I can't for the life of me remember what the end gap was between the 2 Mercedes drivers.
Big.
But to that point, I remember distinctly saying 2/3 of the way through the Grand Prix to Mr. Reed that we always like look at Perez and Verstappen's gap and thinking, well, what's going on here? The gap between Russell and Hamilton, at least at that point, was larger than the gap between Perez and Verstappen. And for whatever reason, we saw this throughout qualifying as well. I think Russell was last across the line, potentially sprint qualifying.
Didn't improve.
And you were like, ooh, and then there was nothing.
Yeah.
He just, for whatever reason, and I know Hamilton he's always been pretty good at
He
coaching.
loves it. He's never been beaten by his teammate.
Never been beaten by his team.
I never said that.
No. But Russell never seemed to quite have the pace here.
Perez qualified badly for the car, but he made good progress in the race.
Yeah.
I was happy with his race progress.
Yeah. Any big brain strat, Harry?
Difficult one to really think about because I didn't know what the strategies were. But
Tough call.
Tough call. I will go for. Can it be from yesterday?
Yeah, of course it can.
You two drank in sync then. That was insane.
We are in sync with the same person. They call us Sam Jimin.
Okay, well, if I can do it from yesterday, because we're scraping the barrel a little bit because we've been at the race. Colour sign started on the softs in the sprint race.
Oh my God. I swear, my reaction to that.
There was no one else on softs. We were count. I was sat next to Ben for it, and we were counting them. We're like, oh, mediums,
Yep.
but soft. Okay, medium.
No one else.
There was a point like 5 laps in where like oh no, this ain't gonna
Because he had a
work.
great start and he
Yeah.
nailed a couple of people. And then, as you say, like lap 5 in, he started to drop back. You're like, oh, no.
And arguably, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be.
yeah.
And it was still not great, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go for that.
I think it wasn't bad because of him.
I think he did well to hold
Yeah,
off
yeah,
Russell
good
in
call.
that.
What about you?
My big brain strat was, again, Ferrari related, so that's 2 for 2 so far. I'm going to go with the conversation between Charles Leclerc and his engineer
Oh, good one.
when they came over the radio and said, "Hi, Charles, we're on plan D. Do you want to go to plan C now because it's not really working?" And Charles goes, "It's like 10 laps from the end. It's too late. They're both terrible anyway. Cheers." Brilliant stuff from Ferrari. Love that.
Saw a tweet from someone who does another podcast. I won't mention their name, but they said, one day I'd just like to see Ferrari do plan A.
Never. They don't have it. I think they can skip over it.
They start at plan B.
So, yeah. They love a bit of she said.
Ah, nice.
Good reference, isn't it?
Yeah, nice.
What about you, mate?
Oh, sorry, it's tempted. I was tempted.
It's a
Really tempted.
Great song.
I'm also going Ferrari Team Radio, which is how many more laps, Xavi?
Oh, God. We are extending. Yes, I know, Xavi, but it's Ricky, actually. Yes, I know, Ricky,
Ricky, yeah.
but how many laps? We are extending.
Give me a goddamn number.
My boy Sykes was fuming.
How many laps? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many laps? We're extending. Yep, I know that, but how many more laps? We are extending.
Okay, let's move on to moment of the race. And we have a return of the Discord submissions. Obviously, the live show that we did, slight difference in that we had live under pressure submissions, which was, firstly, epic.
A lot of banter.
And I'm pretty sure we haven't, we sort of touched on the live show a little bit in this, just to say thank you to everyone who showed up for it. It was one of the most unforgettable nights
I've
of my
had
life.
the week of my life.
Yeah,
It's been
was
insane. Sorry to interrupt this really sentimental thing. Kirsty, the Taco Bell man's here.
Yeah, can you go get it, please?
Aside.
I got a burrito
Taco Bell's
over
here.
Sorry. But yes, agreed. It's been the most ridiculous weekend ever.
Week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Week.
So many
Might have
people.
been the peak. That was
Yeah.
epic.
And so many people have come up to us.
Yeah.
At the track.
and
It's been so good to
said hello.
see how many, so many of you. Yeah, it's really great to
Most
see.
surreal thing is sitting there in the grandstand and thinking someone going, "Can you sign my shirt?"
Yeah. But just hearing all of your stories about how you got into F1 and why you're here and how many times you've been to the Grand Prix, like it's all epic. So
And
thank
now we
you
get
for
to
that.
hear from you again because you're back.
Yes. So we're actually getting to Discord moment of the race submissions. But before we do that, we'll give our own moment of the race. Sam, what have you got?
Well, you kind of took mine with your big brain strat was actually the Ricky conversation.
fair.
But so in theory it's that one, but I'd like to raise another one, and it was the absolute postal service first class delivery signed and tracked that was the sending of Max Verstappen on Lando Norris, because it was an integral move. It was for pretty much essentially the lead of the race. I know it got a bit frisky and kind of some little off track action, but those two going wheel to wheel we haven't seen very often. It was a great send. It was fun to watch. We got it right in front of us as well, so I bet it looked better in real life than it did in person, on the TV rather. But I just love a proper send.
Send it.
I love a dive bomb so much. That is literally where late braking comes from as well, is stupid dive bombs.
Agreed.
So that is, other than the Ricky from EastEnders, I think it is, that is my moment of the race.
Harry, your moment of the race.
We've already mentioned it. I'm going to go for Yuki Tsunoda, not only getting more points because of disqualification, but going for the fastest lap on the
Out of
final
nowhere.
lap.
On soft
Out of
tyres.
freaking
When
nowhere.
did he put those on?
When did
Where
he
did
put
he
those on?
How was he still 10th?
Exactly. Where was he? And how did he get 10th still?
Genius.
Was he in first?
Yeah. That was. We really enjoyed that as he crossed the line there.
We were all very confused, but loved it.
Shout out as well. Not shout out for the moment of the race, but also at the end of the race, there was a really, really small gap in between Leclerc and Russell.
Oh my God, I was fuming.
It was about 3/10. Honestly, we see it at the timing tower.
Yeah.
They were not watching it. They were not
I
watching
didn't
it.
even know.
Yeah.
You just brought it up. I had no idea.
Yeah, we were literally just like, oh my God, there's 3 temps between them. There's 3 temps between them. We're not on board with them. Why?
Is that when we were watching Verstappen just go around as the winner?
We watched Verstappen going round, then it cut to like a few people like Pitbull or whatever, and then it cut to Yuki.
Yeah.
As it was still going, which obviously is great because we saw him do as fast
I
as that.
didn't even know.
Ridiculous.
It was mad.
Incredible. The commentary didn't even pick up on it.
No one.
It
no
was
one
super
knew.
close.
Didn't matter.
You
If
two,
Russell got him
the whole
anyway.
stadium.
Well, I'm glad we were on it.
Russell got him because of DSQs. Probably has a broken car as well.
My memory of the race. American National Anthem.
You people take it very seriously.
USA.
Oh, it was so good.
I thought you all sang along.
No singing along. If that was the UK National Anthem, honestly.
There was a lot of hats
Belting.
off holding them on your hearts as well.
Yeah.
I don't think the four of us there really knew what to do with ourselves.
Nah.
It was
not a clue.
It was good.
Also loved the Rockets Red Glare lyric, and then you fired a load of fireworks out of a tower.
There were lots of fireworks and red, white, and blue.
Also,
And a man came out of the sky with an American
yes.
flag.
You take it all in the
Because America.
daytime, and fireworks aren't particularly effective in the daytime, though.
Ever. Always.
So anyway, good job, America.
What about our Discord submissions, Harry?
Oh, righty, you lot.
I didn't kick off with the big guns, mate.
Yeah, well, I'm going to. First up, she's been gagging.
She's
be
back.
because she
Gagging.
missed
Gagging too much on this podcast.
Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, it's Beef, who, by the way, so many fans over here.
Honestly, Matt, at the live show that were like, do I get to hear Beef?
Yeah,
They love
anyway,
you.
Beef.
Hello, moment of the... Oh, I'll give you an update on Wednesday on my life, by the way. Moment of the race is Charles Leclerc converting a pole to a P6. Okay, bye!
She smashed that. She smashed that.
That was the better version. It got worse than that, Beef.
Yeah, Beef did that before that
Yeah.
the DQ happened.
Turn it back.
We're doing this live, by the way.
Yeah, we don't know if these are rubbish.
Kirsty
No
was in the
vetting.
Kirsty was in the shower, so
Yeah.
she's not even checked it.
She's got proof checked.
Bristol Liam can only be good.
This will be great.
Right, lads.
Hurry.
I have two moments of the race. One where Hamilton was driving absolutely fine and still despising his tyres.
Every time.
And the second was obviously Max hating his brakes, hating GP, and hating everything and still winning this race. See ya.
A couple of whingy boys.
Hating everything.
The way
was
that
moment
Bogo
of the
comes
race.
on and goes, "Hi Lewis, can you do 5 more laps?" And you go, "Don't know, Bogo, this is really tough." Goes wide, and then they go to George. George, can you do 5 more laps? He just goes, "Yeah,
Yeah.
easy."
Go on then.
Go on then.
Like a puppy, George is.
Cheers, Bristol Liam. Next up, all good always.
Highly breaking. Hopefully you guys are having the best time at
We are.
Coda. Moment of the race. It's gotta be probably that spicy fight with Ferrari. I mean, Charles
is it
also
spicy?
saying on the radio, like, we'll talk after the race. If I were Ferrari, I'd be quaking in my Texas boots. Love you guys. Love the podcast. Bye.
I didn't know where that was going for a minute.
Quaking in my Texas boots.
Quaking in my Texas boots.
Inferno Jim.
Is he on fire?
Inferno Jim's on fire.
Your podcast is terrifying.
Fiery Jim. Here we go.
All right, lads. Jim here.
Hi, Jim.
Second time submission. First one wasn't
second
played,
timey.
but it's fine. I'm not bitter. Hope you've had a lovely time in Kota. Looks like you're living your best lives. I'm going to be at Abu Dhabi in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to it.
Early, mate.
My moment of the race. Max moaning about the tyres. Lewis not quite making it. Ifs, buts and maybes, as we all say, if his F1 spelled backwards. And I think a couple of quicker pit stops might have just made the difference for Lewis today, boys. Enjoy your flight home.
Oh, that will be fun.
Yeah.
F1 spelled backwards.
We're not going yet.
Verstappen had a slow stop today. What was that about?
I know. Crazy.
They're all fed up now.
Don't ever see that.
Let's put the B team in.
We're done. Norm, who we've met.
We've met
Good to see you, Norm.
He's a
Hi,
real
Norm.
man.
And also
He's
was
a man.
He's a real man.
He's a real man.
He's not Pinocchio.
I'm a real man.
Was there any doubt? Okay.
I had doubt.
Live from turn 6. Norm from Texas.
Oh, hello, my late-breaking friends. It is I, Norm from Texas, coming to you from turn 6 of Coda, and I'm here to give my moment of the race. And my moment of the race was listening to Charles Leclerc say, "Plan C is killing me." Never change, Ferrari. Never change. Anyway, keep breaking late, and this one goes out to boners. Yeah.
Goes that to bungers.
What?
What?
Bungers,
Bungers.
not boners.
Very different things.
You know what? I just can't look. Plan C's killing me.
I was going to do that as well. You read my mind. The Killers were incredible, folks.
So good.
I just can't look. Next up, a person who inadvertently made it onto our live show because we
yes.
spoke about gammon.
The British version of...
A big ham.
Well, big ham.
It's A Big Ham. Stop asking me about the moment of the race when I'm under braking.
Oh, Verstappen reference. Very good. Very good. Multiple radio messages. I liked that. She's mixed it in well.
I love
Witty.
that.
She's a gammon gal.
Witty gammon.
Witty, a woman.
We've got Brexit beef for gammon gal.
Real Arthur is next. We got loads, jeez.
Hey guys, this is Arthur. My moment of the race was when AlphaTauri decided to test out the softs on Danny Rick before putting him on Yuki's car for the fastest lap, basically doubling their points for the weekend. It was a very Red Bull family move, and it was pretty sweet to see.
Oh, wholesome.
Wholesome and
Lovely
good.
stuff.
Yes, well done.
The next one is from DeHammer8, which
What
also
happened to
says...
the first 7?
Not sure. Non-moment of the race. So I don't know what... Anyway.
All right.
The Hammer from Michigan. My non-moment of the race is fans chanting and booing Max during the podium. That's just not right. As an American, I hate to see that.
To clarify...
They were saying boo earns.
To clarify even further, I don't think they were booing Max Verstappen. I believe they were booing the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott.
He's a horrible man.
Save Leclerc. Which of... Yes. But also Save Leclerc is next.
Save him from a DSQ.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to save Charles Leclerc from Ferrari prison, which I think is especially needed this weekend after the signature pole to P6. That was pretty fun.
Never gets
But
worse.
other than that, my moment of the race was all of the different tire strategies. I thought it made it super fun to watch. Love you guys. Hope you had a great weekend at the race. Bye.
We love you too.
You are correct, Save
Thank you.
Leclerc.
We had a fantastic time.
Wrath is next.
How's it going? This is Wrath in very rainy and very cold Maine. My moment of the race is when Anthony Joshua just randomly came on the radio and said to Pierre Gasly, good luck. I know he's an owner, but I feel like we don't usually hear people like that come on the radio.
Weird marketing campaign.
Thanks and have fun.
I mean,
how do you respond to that? Just like, cheers, AJ.
if I don't say thanks, will you hit me?
Yeah. Okay. Another person that we met on Thursday, SoCal Jen.
Yeah.
Who also did Under Pressure for us.
Lovely.
Hey y'all, it's Jen from SoCal. I'm still in Texas, not at the race. It was amazing seeing the Late Breaking Boys in person. What a fantastic show. My moment of the race is the support that Ferrari provided for Leclerc. Way to go, Ferrari. That was an amazing strategy. Ferrari's back. They're back in action, which is crappy. Okay, Jen Patreon.
Was that a hint of sarcasm I could hear in there?
SoCal sarcastic Jen.
Sarcastic Jen.
Carson LGG is next.
Okay.
Hello, I don't really have a moment of the race, but...
Why'd you submit
Don't
then?
submit then.
Oh, well, then we'll move on. Next up is Stephalicious.
Hello. My moment of the race was Circuit of the Harmonicas.
No!
Bloody hell, Seb.
Circuit of the Harmonica.
I love
Can
that.
I just say, it's labelled Moment of the Race Cota Vingt Trois. As in 2023
Seb,
in French.
This chap.
Seb, you are on my level, and I am so here for it.
Circuit
of the Harmonicas. That's brilliant. That's gold dust.
Okay, Seb.
Hello. My moment of the race for Circuit of the Harmonicas is when the grid's favourite bad boy, Esty Bestie, DNF'd the grid's favourite good boy, Oscar Pastrami.
Oh, he fits right.
He's a bit us, isn't he? He's a little bit us.
Oh.
He's a little bit late breaking.
And finally, another person we met, Joy's the Slay in Texas. That's a new name.
Oh, thank
Joyce
you
is
also
in
for
Texas.
the chocolates and the beer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Having a delightful
thank you for everyone
time.
who's
Very
delights.
kind.
giving us gifts, you crazy people.
I like gifts.
Shush.
Hey boys, it's Joy. Moment of the race is probably Lewis being an absolute menace. He was really fighting for P2 and he wouldn't let anyone else have it. I really respect that. I'd say moment of the weekend is probably meeting you, Lovely, for at the live show. It was a great show, boys, and hope you guys do it again.
We will do it again. again. You're lovely too.
And clarified the lovely 4 as well, which is important.
Yes.
Yes.
K-Dog included.
Yes.
He's now waving from the sofa. Have it eating a Taco Bell.
Taco Bell. I would like mine soon.
I'm so hungry.
I can't wait for mine.
That's a good thing. I think we're pretty much done.
Oh, thank the Lord. I'm
starving.
I felt like the first half of this was all right. Right. Would you mind getting a salad?
I can do that. Typically, it's my job. Thank you to everyone that came and saw us across our entire time here in Texas. We've had an incredible time. And
we wouldn't have left by the next podcast.
I'm about to say that if you happen to see us walking around the town centre because we're having a day off on the Monday, or for the Mexican preview, which is still going to technically be around when we're recording, come and say hello. We have absolutely adored meeting every single one of you. You're wonderful. Everyone that came to the live show, again, you're incredible. We love the support. Thank you so much. We will do more of those. Join the Discord if you haven't already. So many of you who came to the live show are in the Discord and know each other, which is amazing. We have Patreon, and anyone that does support us on Patreon is incredible. You make trips like this happen. We're getting closer to being able to do it full time, and it's a lot of it is because of you, lovely people. You get great benefits every podcast. You get to have discount on your merch. You get birthday shout-outs on the top tier. Bill Breaking, 2 extra episodes a month as well. It's all in there, so please give it a look if you are interested in the podcast. Subscribe to us on the YubTubs, and you can follow us on social media, Late Breaking F1. In the meantime, I've been Sam Sage.
I've been Ben Hawking.
And I've been Harry Eat.
And remember, keep breaking late.
Yeehaw!
The Dallas Cowboys.
Very good.